all warmed up?
Yep.
All right. So, after discussing with you a little bit, Kyle, about how we wanted to attack our wedge play, and watching you hit a few shots, seeing you out on the golf course from time to time, the biggest thing I see for you in your wedge play is that we've got to get your posture into a little bit better situation. So we're getting a little bit steep into the golf ball, all right, which obviously is causing us to hit some shots fat. And then the next thing is that you're definitely missing a little bit left on occasions. And one of the reasons I think is because that club actually, obviously we want that golf club to come through nice and level, right? Through the ground.
Correct.
You're getting those hands in a little bit too low of a position right here, and you can see what happens when we do that is that the heel of the golf club will hit first, shut down, golf ball will miss to the left. So I think by doing a couple things, trying to shallow you out a little bit throughout that swing, and then actually getting you into a position where you're getting your hands from here to here, and more so focusing on that upper body, not necessarily getting your hands higher, but as your body gets higher, you can see the hands come up as well. Right. I think that's going to get that golf ball, the golf club coming through a little bit more square. Divots are going to be better, contact's going to be better, and ultimately that flight is going to be a lot straighter. We'll get rid of that left shot, okay? You have any questions for me before we start?
No.
Now, one thing that I love about this golf shot, and one of the reasons, as we talked a little bit earlier, some people like to actually promote for people to use different clubs to vary the distance they travel the golf ball, right? Keep the swing the same and change the golf club. One of the reasons why I'm a big believer of maintaining one golf club is because you're going to know how that club performs, right? Now, I want you to step back right over here for me, and I want to show you how you can hit different shots with the same club, using, for the most part, the same techniques, just adjusting something as simple as where the ball is positioned in your stance. Now, traditionally, with this bump and run, we have the golf ball positioned farther towards the back of our stance. Hands are forward when we try to control that flight, like so. So you can see I'm going to show you the 3 different flights here, and all I'm going to do is vary that ball position, and you can see, pay attention to the flight of this golf ball. So this one, I'm going to have positioned a little bit farther back in my stance, and obviously you can see it keeps very low to the ground, has a lot of chase on it. This next one, I'm going to make the exact same golf swing, but the only thing different that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move the golf ball position from farther back to a little bit more in the middle of my stance. Hands are still pressed forward, and you can see, watch the flight on this one. Flight comes up much more. Golf ball has a little bit more carry, a little less travel on the ground. And the same thing can be said. Then you can even actually move it up a little bit farther, and again, use a little bit more lock. You can see golf ball travels. Big time wrist flip in that golf swing. So you can see when I flip those wrists, okay, when I flip my wrists, look what happens. That leading edge gets exposed, and again, going back, that's one of the reasons why you have a tendency to hit those shots a little thin, a little low on the club face, and every now you even get that leading edge in the middle of the ball, and it goes really shooting across the green. So what we need you to do is, now that we again have talked about a little closer to the ball, stand a little taller, now get those hands pressed slightly forward, is now you can see my hands are out ahead of the head of the golf club. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that throughout that swing we maintain that. So when I return to impact, you can see my hands are still ahead of that golf ball. It's going to do 2 things. A, it will keep that leading edge out of the factor, and B, it's going to keep your flight a little bit more consistent, because we want to hit this bump and run, so we don't want to get the golf ball too high up into the air. So go ahead, I want you to set up to it. So again, a little closer to that ball. Good, let's get those hands pressed towards our target a little bit more. And I want you to take a couple motions here, not hitting the golf ball, but feeling your hands staying actually ahead, right like that, at impact. The big things that we need to focus on for you is making sure that our body is rotating as opposed to swaying off the golf ball a little bit. As you know, you get a little bit too much full body rotation or full body motion in that golf swing. You need to make sure that we're rotating those hips as well as turning that torso, as opposed to, again, swaying that club or swaying that body off of our target. So I want you to go ahead and set up on this. And I want your first motion to be nothing except your clubs and the arm on the takeaway. And we don't want to start the rotation of our hips until the club gets past our back foot. Now what we want to make sure is that that right pocket feels like we're turning it around our right butt cheek, okay? So I want you to feel that. Take a little, about a half of a swing and focus on that right, there we go, good. So that's the motion we want, as opposed to getting a little bit of lateral motion involved there. So go ahead and try that. Okay, that was really good. Now, the next thing that we need to talk about when we're focusing on hip rotation is the fact that we need to make sure, as our first motion, we want to make sure there's not lateral movement. Even if we don't have lateral movement in that first motion, we got to make sure that on the downswing we don't get this going on, okay? So, completely flipped, what I want you to do is feel like when you take that club on the downswing, that left hip is initiating the downswing and is not driving towards our target, but more so the left